Hi.
Hi, y'all.
So lovely to see you both. And hi, everyone. Welcome to another Wall Exchange session. Before we get started, I am honored to introduce our panelists today. With me is Elizabeth Saltzman, who is a Wall Group represented stylist, London-based, but works internationally. Elizabeth, you started your career at Armani and moved to Vogue, went on to Vanity Fair, became a fashion director at Vanity Fair. Today, you serve as a contributing editor at Vanity Fair, Vogue, Airmail, and Airmail. Work with many, many celebrity clients, including Gwyneth Paltrow, Jodie Comer, Julia Garner, Saoirse Ronan, Isa Gonzalez. The list goes on and on. And I have been so lucky to know you and work with you for many years. I'm very happy to have you here today with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Victor Glamo is here with me as well, and excited to see you. Victor's a Haitian American designer who in 2015 launched his collection of joyous and colorful statement knitwear, marrying comfort and style while designing for all people, genders, races, sizes, and personalities. In 2017, Victor was a finalist in the CFDA Vogue Fashion Fund and honored for his achievements at an event in Washington, D.C., hosted by the ambassador of Haiti to the United States. Some of his most recent collaborations include designing costumes for La Folia Variations for the American Ballet Theater, which premiered in early 2021, creating custom bands for Fitbit, and successfully launching a fall designer collection with Target in September of 2021. But also, mentoring and creating opportunity have always been part of Victor's philosophy and brand DNA. In 2020, you founded and launched In the Black, a nonprofit collective of influential global Black fashion creatives working with industry leaders to promote equitable business growth for emerging Black-owned fashion brands. Thank you for being here. And what I would just say is, and just as a personal aside, Victor, I've worked with stylists for so many years. And even before you launched your line, every single stylist that I ever spoke to had something wonderful to say about you. And you were every stylist's best friend and sort of secret weapon. So, and with that, Elizabeth, I know that's true for you. I would love to hear from you first, Elizabeth. How did you two meet?
Look, Victor is a legend, but Victor, you know this. I walked into KCD, which was is a very prominent, but really in those days was one of the first multi-brand, diverse types of brands, publicity house, a PR mecca. And Victor was there, and I sort of dropped the lead peers of mine or the leads of that and just went, who's that? And just saddled up to the person who knew things and was wise and was wondering and questioned everything and wasn't afraid to speak up. And that was you, Victor. And that we bonded that day forward.
Absolutely.
And it's really true. And I one thing that's really important to say is that it's not fake. There's a lot of people who have best friends and everybody loves them. The difference is that Victor knows their first and last names, their birthdays, their children's names, knows their history, knows what they're working on, cares about it, and is well-read, informed, and gets it. And there's very few like that in this industry. And I've only been doing it for 40 some odd years. So I know I'm just a beginner, but I can honestly say it made me stick by his side like glue because I wanted to learn from him. And that was cool. That's just the truth, Victor. And you know it, so don't deny it.
Thank you. Wow.
But it is the truth. He's with all the cool kids, but he also knows.
Right. I mean, I think back to being a beginner after 40 years and that beginner's mind. I love that. I think that's something we should all have. Victor, talk a little bit about how you got started in fashion and how you wound up at KCD.
My journey in fashion has not been linear. It's very much been my meandering journey, I call it. Before I met Elizabeth at KCD, I was a design assistant and intern for Patrick Robinson, which is how I got started in fashion while still going to FIT. I was just and still am obsessed with clothes. Like, I love clothes. I remember what people are wearing. I can talk about clothes, but I can talk about literature. I can talk about the references. All of these things are really exciting to me and have always been exciting to me. So when I was going to FIT studying fashion and started interning for Patrick, I became his design assistant from there. And this was in the late 90s. And then Patrick closed his business, and his girlfriend at the time, who's now his wife, and they are my very best friends, luckily. And all of my bosses, including the people at KCD and Patrick, have remained in my life. Some have hired me more than one time. So I must be doing something right, I think. And Virginia got a call from Ed Filipowski, who was a great champion of mine and of so many people. And he was looking for someone who loved fashion and had a great spirit. And Virginia was like, there's someone here. He's a designer, but we all love him. And she was working at Calvin Klein at the time. And he's very colorful. And you should meet him. So I went down there and I was wearing a green cashmere sweater, very similar in tone to what Elizabeth is wearing right now. And
why I wore it.
Color for me. Sorry, you're hearing the background of New York City. And carrying a crocodile violin case, which is what I was carrying that summer as a bag. And Ed hired me on the spot, and I started working there. And I had no idea what PR was. I had no idea what any of it meant. I didn't understand the power of KCD, but it was working for Versace with Donatella, which was like, whoa. And I instantly said yes. And it was what I call my fashion finishing school, my MBA. I met amazing people like Elizabeth, globally, editors, fashion directors, buyers, fashion directors of stores, retailers, model agents, agents like you, Allie. Like, I learned all of these different facets of the industry, how to do a show. I was lucky enough to be in amazing designers, ateliers all over the world, seeing couture shows, seeing men's shows. It was just an amazing education. And I absorbed all of that for 5.5 years in New York and in Paris. And from there, I just sort of went through this moment and was just like, I can take this and move forward. And then I slowly started, thinking about how I could start my own business and how I can have a different voice from all of those legends whose shows I was able to work on. So it was just me absorbing, working, and realizing, okay, now, a lot of years later, I could do it my own. So it's been a journey, and I wouldn't change one moment of it.
I love that. I think it's really interesting also to think about, thinking that you wanted to be a designer and going and working in PR and sort of being open to what the experience could teach you. And I think especially as people are starting out in this industry, might have their sights set in one area, and being open to what naturally unfolds and having that, desire to learn. I think it's great. And obviously it served you so well. Elizabeth, I guess from your perspective, do you want to talk a little bit about how you started, or was there a breakthrough moment for you when you were starting out?
Sure. I think, I wanted to be something else completely. I was sure I was going to be either an actress or an architect. And the actress part, I couldn't act at all. I just wanted to be a movie star. That's what I wanted. I wanted the star part. I didn't want to do anything else. So that was out of the question. And then the architect part was so obvious because it was just visual and I knew what I wanted to see. And then in those days, there weren't computers, so you had to take 7 years of math class. So that was out the window. I didn't have the 7 years within me to do that, but I did have the 7 years to learn anything about fashion or color or clothing or people or style, which is all architecture and acting and dressing. It's everything. But what it really is confidence building, which for me is a certain type of architecture. And the big thing, look, I started at Armani, which people don't know, in the basement folding clothes. And yes, I got taken to Milan to design for them because they thought I could be a designer at 18 years old. But I can draw stick figures. I can't design, but I understood what worked and what didn't work. And that's something that, from seeing art and movies and film and watching my parents get dressed every day and watching people in different countries get dressed all the time, and just being interested, not necessarily in the fabulousness of it, but in every aspect of it. I was just as happy to go to, and maybe even more happy to go to, a mom and pop shop in a small town than I was to go to a fabulous store that had it all, because I couldn't have any of that. I could have something that I could create or work with or afford or thrift or copy or whatever it was. But for me, it was, you got to learn from the inside out. And I think, Victor, that's what you did so beautifully, was you knew what you wanted. You learned it from the inside through the genius of a Patrick. But then you went on and you tried something else. So you saw the whole machine. You got the whole foundation plus the first floor and the second floor. And now you're just putting the roof on it so it can explode. And something that I love about you is that from the get-go, you answered something that people are just figuring out now. You came up with knitwear because it was missing. It's been missing. Like, it was so obvious in my life growing up with a Halston or a St. John Knits or whatever it was, Pauline Frigere, just Chanel, whatever it was. And it kind of disappeared. And you came out blazing with color, and it worked on anybody. It worked on my women that I worked with who are 5'2" or 6'3" or 5 foot wide. It just worked. And you really gave us that. But for career wise, I think what we both really have in common is not being afraid to start inside and soak up anything and just keep going. It's just, don't waste time, and make sure you're learning.
Always.
Always, today included.
Yes.
Great call out. I mean, I think that sort of segues nicely into wanting what I wanted to talk about next, which is networking and collaborating, right? And you're talking without naming it as networking. That's what you're describing. But I think, if you were going to advise a young artist, a young creative, how to best network in their respective fields, do you have some words of advice or how to collaborate, how to find that tribe that you resonate with?
Victor.
I'll kick it off, Saltzman.
No, I've got it too, but I know you have look, both of us are very, very socially willing to walk into a room alone, and any little opera, any little bodega, it doesn't matter. And just, hey, I'm Elizabeth. What's going on here? What's happening?
Absolutely. I think it's about being curious, but also being yourself. The idea of exploring something and, also having a bit of tenacity around it. I think in this moment we're in regards to social media, where you can DM someone and feel you can reach out and you're connected, you still have to break through that connection into bringing it into real life. And what do you stand for? Because when you do get to meet an Elizabeth or anyone else, it's like you have to be yourself, and you have to actually have something that feels right for whatever that networking moment is. And I think for me, You have to personally be curious. You have to know what's going on, but you have to stand for something. Like, I've always sort of been the same in terms of my style, in terms of, my approach to work. It's always been be early, be tenacious, sort of push through. But I am also very social, and I love to say when I do these things, um, new business happens after 6. I enjoy going out, and it's very much a part of how you cultivate a network, how collaboration begins sometimes, because people are relaxed, people want to chat, people are enjoying themselves, and ideas foster around that. It's not just 9 to 5 or 9 to 7 or whatever the hours are. My assistant, I love to hear what she does when she goes out and where she goes out and what she's wearing or what she's not wearing. All of these things are exciting to me and foster ideas. And I think it's really important to just be open to that.
Something you said, Victor, that's really important. I just wrote these words down. I scribbled them as you were doing. Be on time. Be respectful of people's time. Victor and I always say this to each other, and Victor, we stay at each other's places, so this is real. It's if you're not 5 minutes early, you're late. Because sometimes some of the greatest things happen while you're early and you're watching people walk in and you're watching people greet each other, and you're not running in and so frazzled and caught up in your own time that you actually get to watch something unfold, or you get to watch people move, and you get to watch a new idea. It's also commit, show up. If you say you're going to show up, don't flake. Really big and really important what Victor said about DMing. There's nothing better for me than to get a DM from a young designer or a person that wants to break in. But how am I going to know who you are? Don't write, hey, babe, love your work, da, 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 da. I'm fangirling, I'm fanboying, whatever it is. That's so cool if that's true. Don't tell me what I want to hear. Tell me about you. I'm pretty, every day I'm okay. I wake up and I know that I'm here. So that's awesome. I want to meet someone new. I want to know what's happening. What are they looking forward to? What's exciting them? What restaurant did you eat at? What can you tell me about wherever I am today, Palm Beach? I don't know anything. So, you heard I'm here. What's happening? Feed us. I'm hungry, and we're here to learn. And so to break in and be social is really, really important. And sometimes if you're shy and you don't have access, or you live in the middle of nowhere, you can still get to people. You can DM and say, this is where I live. What do I do? How do I break in? There aren't those stores here. There isn't that. Well, you're not alone in a town, even if it's 2,000 people. There's other people. I've been to those towns. I've created projects in Vermont where there wasn't projects, So find like-minded people, put it out there, work as a team.
It's so interesting to hear. And I love to hear that you want people reaching out. And I think that's the benefit of social media. And it has created this opportunity that didn't exist when you started your careers, didn't exist when I started. So the change is dramatic, and the way that it does connect people is incredible and instantaneous. And the fact that both of you are hungry for that interaction, I think it's wonderful to hear, and to, as you're starting in your career, to know that there's creatives on the other end who might be where you want to be, who are just as interested in talking to you, right? Like as you are to them.
Sure. That's really true. Calvin Klein always said to me, everyone has it so easy. He had to carry his collection from magazine to magazine to store by himself. There weren't assistants. There weren't interns. It was carry what you can and show them. And it's a yes or a no. And these days, the world is a judge.
Yeah.
So people have an opportunity. That also means, and this is the downside, you really have to know what a business is before you launch your business.
Yeah.
because you cannot make one dress that I will fall for. I've done this to designers before and it's terrible. And I have severe guilt, even though it's a waste of time, where we have put it on someone and it gets out there and they can't make the dress, they can't deliver it, they can't sell it. So they become this superstar and get fame, but have no foundation. I can't stress enough. Make sure you're set up to have a small enough business that you could sustain it. We also don't need to create more waste. You know, let's not waste time, energy, supplies, or Mother Nature.
I completely agree. Victor, do you want to say anything about that, or maybe how that relates to what you're doing with In the Black?
You know, I think I absolutely do. I feel like what I have learned and what I've learned from people who I trust, people who I have access to and I listen to, you know, it's really the idea of what are you standing for and how are you doing it? And when we think of this moment and we think of business today, and there is Instagram fame or social media fame, and there is a way to instantly access and have people purchasing your things that bypasses an older system of going to a store, you know, or relying on editors and just cultivating your own audience. And that's amazing. But fashion is very much an industry that is set up in certain ways, and the parameters and the guardrails still very much exist. And even though I am someone who understands them and can try to break them down, that's not a challenge that I'm interested in. So what I'm trying to do is enlighten and share. Ooh, Saltzman, you're going in and out.
Yeah, but we got you.
I'm back.
Okay, good.
We just had a blackout. I'm really sorry. A full-on blackout.
Yeah. We're glad you're back.
Yay! Sorry about
that. What I try to do is take what I know, the learnings that I have, and if I don't have the right resource for someone who's doing jewelry or menswear, I really try to think about who can I introduce them to through In the Black and through the people that I know globally that can help or, you know, address the supply chain issues that Saltzman sort of mentioned in terms of production and all of the unsexy parts that when you do have a creative idea and you can make something with your own hands and people want to purchase that, you can't build a business, you can't market a business, you can't sell all of you can't do every single facet of what it takes to build a business. And I think once you break it down for people, and when anyone asks me anything, they're like, what do I need? I'm like, you need a good lawyer, sometimes two, and you need a good accountant. And it's not what people expect for you to say, you know, because it's not sexy and it's not where you think of when you are creative and you want to make something and you want people to wear it. And whether it's a celebrity or a customer or a client, you want it to be out there. But how do you get it there? So I think it's really just taking those learnings and just being really open about it, you know, because there are designers that are friends of mine who work at very big places and they have the same problems the young designers have and that I have, you know. But, and Saltzman has said this, but once you are put yourself out there, you are judged on the same level of X, of this French couture maison.
No.
And it's not fair, but it's still our reality.
Right.
Agree. Fully. Well said.
Victor.
Yes.
Back to you. What relationships have you found to be the most impactful in getting to where you are in your career? So you just mentioned lawyer, accountant. I'm interested also in like the collaboration that everyone talks about is between creatives, but you have to collaborate also like on the mundane aspects of running your business. Talk about what your mindset looks like in that type of collaboration.
I enjoy it. And it's something that I didn't think I could get into, sort of like that entrepreneurial business side of it. But again, it's just through me understanding it and doing those things. Like years ago, Net-a-Porter DM'd me. A buyer from Net-a-Porter DM'd me on Instagram, and social is not sort of my bag. I don't focus on it. I was just able recently to have enough money to hire someone to do it. So I feel like I'm late to the game. But, they reached out and I accepted this order. This is years ago. And I sent them the collection. They looked at it. The buyer reached out. They sent the order. I looked through their entire sort of like complicated manual. And when you ship to these stores, it's complicated and you have to follow their rules. But I did all of the bagging, the filling, the production, the shipping, the invoicing, the labeling, and all of those things. And it was a beast and it worked at that moment. But now with that, I guess, insight into what it takes to do logistics, I can speak to a warehouse person. I can speak to a buyer. I can speak to all of these different things. And I've shared the story with other people. I'm like, I needed to understand that. So A, I don't get ripped off now. Mm-hmm. And B, if it comes down to it and it all crumbles, I can do it myself.
Right.
And I think it's just really just taking the time and saying, okay, I'm going to spend this weekend digesting X and understanding more about X and, looking at Saltzman's work and really understanding what she's done and saying, oh, she would like this or this stylist would like that. And really having a dialogue with the people that you hope to build your career with, whether it's creatively, what's, in front and visible or behind the scenes, it's all the same. I think it's really about knowing what people will like. And for all of my relationships, I'm just always really candid, but I also know what people are working on. Right. And I like knowing, and I think they enjoy that because it's not like, oh, you don't know what I'm doing.
Right.
But I have to know what you're doing. It's a two-way street of conversation. So participate.
That's what makes you rare.
And wonderful. And it goes back to sort of, being willing. I say this too, and working on the agency side of representing creatives is you really have to be willing to start and learn every single aspect of the job. I mean, how to lay out portfolios, what the art department does, how to send out packages, how to request, all of it is important because then you really understand what goes into the career. That on our side, when we're managing creatives, it's really important to know. I could talk for another hour and I'm getting our 5-minute warning. So yes, I know.
Not fair. Can we do 3 hours?
Yeah, we should. I guess.
Wait, can we have a series? Let's have a series.
Yes. Give me your ingredients to success, Elizabeth Saltzman.
Be kind. Be curious. Sleep less, even though people tell you not to. I mean, sleep is really important. Be motivated. Mm-hmm. And truly, for me, probably empathetic, just really and truly be kind. I don't care who you are. We are all people. I don't want to talk about a man. I don't want to talk about a woman. I don't want to talk about a skin color. I want to talk about a person. And if they work mopping the floors, they are equal, if not more important to the person who's at the top. Be kind.
Amen to that. Be kind is mine as well. Be kind and work hard. Victor, your ingredients for recipe for success.
Saltzman lives by that, by the way. I've seen her do it all over the world. She lives by that. It's a fact.
Wait, I have one more. It's really important. Laugh. Don't take it seriously. Don't take it seriously. This is work, but this is not a dress rehearsal. We only have today.
Yeah. Mine is definitely stay curious, be respectful. You have to have fun and be tenacious. There's going to be a lot of doors shut in your face. There's going to be a lot of unanswered whatever, calls, DMs, everything. But believe in it, believe in yourself, and just have tenacity and be respectful doing it and knock on every door.
Agree. I love Victor.
I love you too, Saltzman.
I love you
Hey,
both.
hey, and we love you, Miss Bird.
Thank you, Allie Bird.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. This
Yay.
was wonderful.